Well, it says you are live on my side.
You are live. Hello, Isn't It Romantic Book Club, Abbie's Dangerously Dark Darlings, and Jennie's Page Turners.
Page Turners.
Ah. It's so great to be with you here tonight. I'm Diana Muñoz Stewart. I write romantic suspense for the strong of heart. My book, Broken Promises, is out. Oh boy, I lost my cover. All right, it's out in November. Go ahead, Abbie.
All right, guys. I'm Abbie Roads. I write dangerously dark romance. Think an episode of Criminal Minds meets a love story. Here's a little pile of my books. They're all different colors. And then here's the one with my little purple one with Capturing Fates with the editor. I'm just waiting to get edits back on it. Miss Jennie.
Nice. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennie Marts. I'm happy to have my page turners here on this live video. I see Sarah already. Hi, Sarah. I write small town romance. I write hot cowboys. I write hockey players. I write humorous. I try to be funny. I don't know whether I accomplish it or not.
You are funny.
So this is my latest book, A Cowboy State of Mind, and I always love showing all my hot cowboy guys. So I know Abbie's are good colors, but mine are just not quite up there. So
well, mine are good colors, but yours are cowboys.
Yeah, that's well. Let's just put Rock right there. Woo, cutie. Anyway, we're so glad that you guys are here tonight. We're so excited to see you. We have a fun night scheduled for you, and we are unfortunately short our lovely Sharon tonight. She couldn't make it tonight, but we're thinking about her and are sending good thoughts, and she will be back with us next time.
Yeah.
We are so excited to have Adriana Herrera here tonight. Adriana Herrera was born and raised in the Caribbean, but for the last 15 years has let her job and her spouse take her all over the world. She loves writing stories about people who look and sound like her, people getting unapologetic, happy endings. When she's not dreaming up love stories, planning logistically complex vacations with her family, or hunting for discount Broadway tickets, she's a social worker in New York City working with survivors of domestic and sexual abuse. She also has a new release out this week, Here to Stay. Welcome, Adriana.
Hi. Hi. How are you?
Excited to talk to you tonight. I enjoyed this book.
Yay! I'm excited to be here. I have a copy of it right here.
Oh, it's even prettier and like that. And
yes. I do love this cover. It's beautiful, and it's coming out on audiobook soon. So that's
exciting.
Nice.
Oh, I love American Dreamer, the audiobook on that.
Yes.
Are you gonna have the same reader or?
I don't have the same narrator for this one. I wanted a narrator. I mean, I loved Sean Kristen, and he's actually he did Here to Stay, which just came out on Tuesday. Yeah, here it is.
Oh gosh, that's gorgeous.
He did the narrate, he did the hero's narration. It's a MF, so it's a heroine and a hero, and he did it for Here to Stay as well, and he did it for the whole Dreamer series, and he's amazing. But this narrator could do African accents, and one of the heroes, as you know, is Ethiopian. And I'm not going to get into too much of the minutia of it, but there's a lot of narrators that can do a West African accent, like Ghanaian, Nigerian, but there's not that many that can do an Ethiopian accent, which is in East Africa. So he could do it.
Oh my God, I want to hear this so bad.
I know, I'm going to have to get it just to listen to it.
Yeah, although Sean Kristen did all the Latinx accents and the French accent in the third book of the series. Amazing. So he's also great.
I think that's fantastic, and that you have dual narrators.
It's a really good audio.
Oh, that's fantastic. And did you get to pick or?
I mean, they gave me some options. I published through this series is hybrid. I do my indie stuff, and so Here to Stay is through Carina Press, which is an imprint of Harlequin,
right?
And they let me pick from like a few. Like I kind of was like, it has to be someone that can do like an accent in Spanish that's like okay. Like I'm like, I know he's not gonna be able to do like a Puerto Rican, a Dominican, a Cuban, a Jamaican, but if he could at least sound like he's a native Spanish speaker, then that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, and they gave me a few, like 2 or 3, and so I got to pick from one of those. And the narrator, the female narrator that did this one is like she's Puerto Rican, so her accent is really good.
That's
and the heroine is Dominican Puerto Rican, so it worked out great.
Well, I already got my copy, so I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's not such a departure from the Dreamers series, but it's funnier. It's a lot funnier than the Dreamers.
So, but it's male, female, and the Dreamers are all male, right?
Dreamers are all male except the last one.
Oh, okay.
Which is an MF. It's Juan Pablo's story. It's the last of the friends, the heroine is Priscilla, who is the cousin of the first hero of Dreamer, Nesto.
Okay, all right. I love Nesto.
Yeah.
So I think it's fun that our readers just kind of get to hear a little bit too about the audiobook process and the casting and how we, get to listen to the different ones. And
yeah,
thanks for sharing that. That's kind of a fun little thing. So tell us about your new book.
Yeah, so Here to Stay is a new universe for me. It's set in Dallas, Texas. My previous books that I had written, the Dreamer series, were all set in New York State. 2 of them are in New York City, 2 are in Ithaca, New York, which is upstate. And Here to Stay is, a department store romance, enemies to lovers, set of New Yorkers who meet in Dallas. So it's kind of like they're called the Gotham Exiles Club. So it's basically like a group of not exile, but just like New Yorkers that have found themselves all in Dallas, Texas, kind of like at the same time, and they're all new to town. So they form like a friends group. And Julia and Rocco are part of that friend group who are the hero and heroine. They're also at odds at work, so there's like a little bit of rivals to lovers thing. So it's fun.
That's interesting. So that is set in the United States, and this book was set in Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, yes.
Now, have you been to all the places that you set your books at, or do you sometimes just have to do research, or?
So far, yes.
Oh, really?
So far, yes. So I lived in Ethiopia for about 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so my husband and I, right after we got married, we went to Ethiopia to do humanitarian relief work. So we worked for like a nonprofit there, for an international nonprofit. And we were there for about a year, and then we left, and we went. So it's very similar to actually Desta's story. So we were there, we left for 2 years. We went to Honduras, and then when my daughter was 4 months old, just like Desta, we moved back to Ethiopia, and we were there for about 3 years.
Wow.
Give or take. So I love living there. It's, the homeland of my heart. I love the people. Anyway, it was wonderful.
It felt very authentic, and I feel like I really got a sense of the community and the people there. It's funny because I've done some traveling, and I heard someone say this once, and I think it's true, that every place has a different kind of energy. I was in St. Petersburg, Russia once. They kind of have a darker, kind of slower pace. But I thought the energy here was like lighthearted, and I don't know that. Would you say that's the case, or?
Well, I mean, that's part of why like I said, I lived there for a long time, and so I got to know the country well. And I think Desta and Elias talk a little bit about it in the book, that people have a very particular perception about Ethiopia, that it was that it's a poor country, which it is. Yeah. And what we kind of know of it was those famines that happened in the 80s and the early 90s, and that's kind of like the sense that people have of what Ethiopia is. And yet, it was a country that had a monarchy until the 70s. There was an emperor. You can go to Gondar, which Desta goes to, and I kind of wanted to get into it, but I'm like, I can't do a travel blog. But like Gondar is like the Camelot of Ethiopia. There's castles where the monarchs live. So we have and it's a beautiful country. It's a huge country. There's 80 million people. There's a huge part of the country that's Muslim. There's like fascinating things like, churches that are built out of stone in the ground that you can go like 3 floors down. And it's like these humongous like churches built out of like one big rock.
Wow.
Or like hundreds of years old. So it's like there's a lot of different ethnic groups. Elias and Desta talk about like the different traditional houses. Like each tribe kind of has like its own shape and costumes and dances. So it's a fascinating place. The people
are fascinating, and they were fascinating as a couple. It was really interesting to me because it was a regular romance. All the angsty kind of won't they get together, and then there was also this kind of thread that ran through it, a little bit of they have to be cautious because they're in a place where being gay is frowned upon.
It's illegal.
And you know what, one of the scenes that I just literally stopped reading and just thought for a moment was when Elias came out and basically admitted that to Desta, he said that I'm gay and I want to live somewhere where I don't have to hide. And I just had to like think about that for a minute, because it's not, depending on where you're at in the US, it's not always acceptable, but you can go to the big city maybe, or you can go to places where
you can walk around holding hands.
And I thought how horrible that would be, that your whole country, you can't go anywhere where you could be open. And I just really had to sit with that for a moment and just think about that. So
and I think, and then that's why I ended up making the choice of not writing from Elias's point of view. I tend to write in first person, especially like the stuff I write indie. I tend to write in first person, and I think a lot about like just like how close I can get to a person's experience, especially when it's like a marginalization, and I can get close and like Desta's Dominican. Desta was like had a lot of the things in his life and his background were similar to my own life experience, but I don't know what it is to be in like from a place where like being who I am literally could like get me jailed or And so I felt like I just couldn't get close enough to that experience and to the fear and like the complications around that experience and do it justice. So I chose to just write it from Desta's perspective, because that felt more respectful, I guess, is what I decided.
And I just want to ask the readers who are out there joining us today, like when you were reading the book, what was your favorite scene? Because there was, and it was just a small little thing, but for me, it was when they were at the coming back from working at the and they come to the hotel and their boss had shown up days early, and there's no room for her, and I'm going, oh, like, oh, are they gonna have to share a bed?
So you gotta throw the only one bed, although technically there were 2 beds in the room.
That especially after they're like kind of like being, Desta being a little, distant and all that. That was so satisfying to me.
Yeah, those 2 were. I mean, it's interesting to me with them because it was as I was writing, and that was not my intention, it started to get like a new adult feel to it. Because like they're both kind of like in their 20s and figuring like what they're gonna do with their lives.
Right,
like,
go to college, like continue going.
Yes, yeah. So it kind of took a turn. I don't usually write people that are that young, but it just kind of turned out that way, and the angst kind of like really went up higher than I usually do with this one. But I feel like it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a really like coming of age in a way, or like kind of like fully going into adulthood. It's more like it felt like for me. And
well, go ahead. And you know what's funny too? I love books that have, like, when you referenced the Civil Wars, the song,
yes, yeah,
Poison and Wine, was that it?
yes.
And like, so of course I have to stop the book, look up the Civil Wars, and listen to their song and read the lyrics, you know. And I just love that. Like, I just discovered a new group. You know?
I know, and they're so good, and it still makes me sad that they broke up. So yeah, and I use music more in that book than I've used it in any other book, and I mean, a lot of the places that were in the areas of the country that Desta and Elias were working were the parts of the country that I worked in. I worked a lot in the field, and did similar work to what Desta did in the book. You know, just kind of going into the field and working with people that were benefiting from whatever program, and so they're long trips, like usually from Addis Ababa to Awassa, where they kind of were based in the beginning. It's like a 5-hour road trip. So
wow,
you just kind of like listen to music, and I mean, you can, or listen to an audiobook or something like that.
Right.
Like,
You mentioned the audiobook.
Yeah.
That was great. Yeah.
yeah, and and back then, like not now. Now the internet is a lot better there, but back like when I lived there, like the internet was like dial up, so you had to like really kind of like get all your stuff downloaded beforehand, because the internet could be working or not working. So I wanted to kind of like do all those little things that were like such like were part of like my day to day when I did that work. So it was kind of fun to do all that.
And would they really be in a car, just two of them, or would there be a lot? I mean, I would think that there would be more people kind of crammed in. And obviously for the book, we wanted the two of them in the car together, but
yeah, usually, I mean, it depended, right? Like usually, like sometimes it was just you and a driver, because I mean, they worked for like the nonprofit that was like part of the U.S. Embassy, and they have, you know, fleets of vehicles. So usually like they'll send 2, 3, and especially for that sort of work where you're doing like field surveys, like you have to send 2, 3 teams out. And so sometimes you have 2 people, sometimes you have 4 people, but sometimes it could just be the 2 of them in a car. So I had occasions where it was just like me and the driver going into a field trip or something like that.
Wow.
So how much coffee did you drink while you were writing this? Because every time I'm reading about this wonderful Ethiopian coffee, and I'm like,
it's
craving.
Traditions, like the tradition of doing the coffee ceremony or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, and so coffee is huge there. I mean, I think it's the best coffee in the world, but it's really cultural, and they're very proud of their coffee. And it's delicious and cheap. And I didn't get into either, but Ethiopia was occupied by Italy for like 5 years. I think it was in the 1930s. So the Italians brought like the coffee, like they made like the espresso machines, and like this whole culture of like espresso and all of this happened, like kind of spread out in Ethiopia. So you can go like literally anywhere. It could literally be like a hovel with like 3 walls, and you'll find like a pristine espresso machine. And you can have like perfect coffee basically anywhere for like 5 cents.
Wow.
So I actually I think I made Desta say that he had to like cut down on the coffee, because in those first few days he was just drinking coffee. And it was so bad for me that my teeth started getting stained when we first moved there, because I was having like 6 macchiatos a day.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
I had to like cut back and kind of like level out. But yeah,
that's really cool that you used a lot of your experiences from that time and put it in your book. Now, do the characters represent anyone you know in your life? Do you find that they're familiar to you in some way?
I feel like Elias, like I had, and I worked for a nonprofit that was based out of Ireland. It was basically like the biggest like Irish nonprofit in Ethiopia. It was called Concern. And Elias is kind of based on one of my coworkers. It was
He's
like
adorable.
he was, I mean, this guy was the best. And he was, we shared an office. So it was like this like really little room. And we were like both facing out to where like they had like all the cars, like all the vehicles that went out. So we got constantly like sprayed with like fumes.
Oh my God.
And he was Ethiopian. He was from the South. He was very tall and very lovely. And so I always remember that time when I was kind of like stuck with him in that office. And we had like this huge door and just like fumes coming at us. So I thought about him a lot writing it. I wouldn't say he's exactly like Elias, but he was the person that I thought about a lot when writing Elias. And the boss, Bonnie, is definitely like inspired of one of my like really good friends that I had there in Ethiopia. It's still a friend of mine. And she's actually the person that I thought about writing her was British, but she is like a Brit that went to Ethiopia, married a Ethiopian man, and is still there and has her family there. So she's similar in that way to Bonnie, who kind of just like went for a couple of years and then had been there for 10 years. So, yeah.
So I want to pause for just a second and just reach out to our readers and just let you guys know that, like we often do, we're going to offer a gift card for a $20 gift card, because we want you guys to, chime in and ask questions. And if you have questions for, Adriana about the book, about her new book, about her writing process, just chime in with questions. And then later, I think on Sunday, typically, we'll pick from the commenters. So even if you're not watching this live and you're catching up with it later, you can still leave a comment for us and you'll be entered in the drawing. But we just want to hear from you guys too and make sure that you feel involved too. So Adriana, I would say that a lot of our readers love kind of learning just about us as writers and our writing process and some of the stuff we do. So tell us a little bit about, I would say I'll give you an A or a B. So either share with us maybe a little bit of your writing journey, or maybe share with us a little bit about what a typical writing day looks like for you. Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? And you can kind of share a little bit with that. And I have to say, hi, Teresa.
And Sarah just chimed in and said, "What's your daily writing process?" So
yeah, we had like a mind meld. We were Adriana, what do you think? You can kind of pick which of those you'd like to share about.
I can talk about my writing process since Sarah wanted to know too. I am definitely a plotter. I'm an intense plotter. I wouldn't say like I write every minuscule detail, but I do plan what I'm going to write. I usually, let's start from the beginning. I try to write every day, except for today. I'm trying to start a new book, and I'm just like in that moment of procrastination where it feels like I've never done this before. Like, what is even a book? So,
we all know that
word.
So I'm like, words. What is that? So I'm like, I've been really playing with this, starting this manuscript, but I really need to do it because I'm on a deadline. But usually I do see clients. I do see therapy clients 3 days a week, and usually like what I try to do is like write less on those days. I try to write a little bit every day when I'm drafting, not when I'm trying to play and not actually start writing a book like I did today. But usually I do Pacemaker, which is like it's like an online thing that you kind of put your writing goal and how many words, and then it kind of tells you how much you have to write every day to like meet your your goal. So I usually put it in there, and I'll do less writing for the days I work, more writing for my writing days, which is usually Thursday and Friday. It's like my heavy writing days, and then the weekend I do a little less. So I kind of let like Pacemaker tell me what I need to do every day. But I'm definitely like a slow and steady writer. I don't like 5,000 word days. Like I can do that once, and then like I'm burnt out. I'm more like a 600, 1200, and that works better for me. I can kind of like consistently write more if I do it that way. I use a couple of craft book things to plan my writing. I use Romancing the Beat from Wen Hayes to kind of do like my pacing and plot beats for the book. And then I use Story Genius by Lisa Crone. Story Genius is like a craft book. She has like a method to outline and to kind of like come up with the backstory and the wound and all of that. And I find it useful. Yes, there it is. It's so, I actually just started using Plotter. Have you?
I did. I just got it.
So Plotter has the Wen Hayes template already in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can just plot out your scenes and everything on it, and you can do your like character notes. It's actually great.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been super useful because if you're a plotter, like you know the struggle of dealing with an outline
and it's Plottr. No.
Yes.
So if you want to look it up, and they have a free trial, so I'm just saying it's worth trying.
They got a free trial, and it's like $25 a year.
Yeah,
which is
it's like no big deal.
Affordable. Yeah. So anyway, I've been using Plotter. I used it to plot this book that I refused to start. My editor's watching. I'm on it. And so I do that usually, and then usually in revisions, I will try to do some. Donald Mass has a book called The Emotional Craft of Fiction, and he has like at the end of each chapter, he has these like bullet points for things that you need to be thinking about the inner life of the character. I made a template for myself because I'm a nerd, and I usually go through that template when I'm going into revisions, because I feel revisions is when I do like the heavy lifting for for the character development and the inner life of the characters and all of that. So usually I do before I go into like the first heavy like developmental edit, I'll do that template for myself. And that's my writing process.
So Sarah wants to know if you edit as you write.
Yes, I try to do a pretty clean draft. Like usually what I'll do, I don't go back and read. I work on Word because I've tried with Scrivener many times and failed. So I just work on Word. I do all my writing and revising on Word. So I usually try to keep a pretty clean draft, and usually I'll do one thorough reread before I send it to my editor. And I do both. I'm a hybrid author, so I do both traditional and indie. And with indie, like I do the same kind of type of editing. Like I usually do 2 passes with an editor and then do a proofread pass, even for my indie stuff. So I try to keep it as clean as possible before I send it, so on the back end it doesn't come back to bite me.
And how long does it usually take you from start to finish for a book?
I write pretty fast. Once I get going, like it takes me a while to like get into the manuscript. Like I have to let it percolate a little bit, but once it's like there, then I can probably do, I'd probably say like I could probably do 40,000 words in like a month.
Wow.
Or like 5 weeks.
I wish I could do that.
Now,
I don't want to jinx myself because I have to write words over the next 2 months.
But then you have to have days when you're writing more than 500 words a day then.
Yeah, usually what I do is I'll have like, the way I do it is usually like on the days that I write, I'm writing closer to like 1,700, 1,800. So I usually have a 2-day block in the week where I'm doing like 4,000 to 5,000 words, and then on the other days I'm doing way less. And you know, and there are days where you're just kind of like in the zone when you're like kind of like oh yeah, like this is flowing, and I'll have like a 3,000 word day or like a 3,500 word day, especially at the end when I'm just like desperate to finish.
Yeah,
like all of this is gibberish, but it's but I got 5,000 words. Like I'll do like bigger writing days, but yeah.
Been there. We've been there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I have a question. How
Yeah.
did you decide to name Desta, and that meaning joy? Like how like, because I really loved towards the end where Aaliyah says, I need to find joy. And Dustin's like, you already found it, you know? And
so cute.
like, did you already have that line planned, or?
No.
You're brilliant.
I didn't. And actually, I knew someone who was named Desta Joy.
Wow.
It was a woman, and she was an expat. She had been born in Ethiopia, and her parents had grown up there as a child, and then had come back as an adult to work as a nonprofit worker. So, and she actually she was there for a couple of years and left while I was even living there. She left because her partner was Australian, and they went back to Australia. But her name was Desta Joy. And I always thought that was such a wonderful name for like a protagonist of a book. So when I started writing, I was like, this is the name that I'm going to use. Although it wasn't Finding Joy. The title of the book was a different title. And then I decided to do Finding Joy to do a little bit like a kind of play on the name a little bit.
Yeah, that totally worked. And I adored Desta so much. He was like the kind of, it reminded me of the kind of dorky kind of, this gorgeous guy that you're falling in love with. And,
yeah, he was like really needy, but in a cute way.
And seeing Elias through his eyes, I don't know, you couldn't help but fall in love with him too. You know what I mean? Just seeing him, seeing Elias through Desta's eyes, it just was so, I don't know, so powerful and sweet. And
yeah,
it was fun to do the slow burn because they were so cautious about.
Yeah, that worked. That was great.
Yeah.
It was a fun book to write. It was the first book I ever started writing. I started writing Finding Joy before I wrote Dreamer, and I put it down because I was like, this is too much to do, and I felt like I was still kind of. It wasn't that long after we came back from Ethiopia, and it all felt too intense. So I picked it. I wrote Dreamer, and then I wrote the second book of the Dreamer series, and then I went back to Finding Joy and finished it. But yeah, it was the first thing I always thought Ethiopia was a great place to write a romance, and so it worked.
Yeah, I loved being introduced to it. I really did.
Yeah. Will you have another romance set there using maybe somebody else in this book?
I'd envisioned a romance with Saritu, with the friend that's a singer, and it was a lesbian romance, and I had like a whole plan of doing like a bodyguard romance for her and having her like go viral from like a video and then end up in the state. Anyway. I might do, I feel like I have many deadlines now, but I want to do at least a novella for her.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
I loved her character too. And I love that surprise that all of a sudden she's on stage and it's like, oh, she looks familiar.
I know, and that's also I didn't know a Saritu, but I knew a couple. There was a couple of expat bands in Ethiopia. There was a lot of there was a pretty good live music scene in Addis, and there was a couple of groups of expats with Ethiopians that would play live music just for fun at bars, and so there was quite a few different places where you could go and hear cover bands in Addis on a weekend. So that was kind of where I got the idea that she would have a kind of a side hustle that was singing.
Yeah, and Teresa actually asked about that.
Yep, I was going to say that's a perfect segue to Teresa.
I know. Perfect. She wants to know, do you listen to music while writing? And if you do, different playlists for each book or same for all?
So I need complete silence to write.
Oh,
I can't even do like white noise. It's actually, I just actually spent a lot of money on noise canceling headphones today because my husband and I work in the same office space. Like we have a home office, and he's a professor, and he just started classes again. He's teaching virtually this semester.
Oh, yeah.
And so from like 1 to 4, Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays, he's talking about like statistics. He's an economics.
Oh my.
He teaches economics. So it's like, I was like, I'm going to lose my mind.
Right.
Yeah, so romance inducing, right?
Yeah.
So I love him, but honestly, like I can't handle it. So I ordered some like expensive noise canceling headphones because I don't want to go to the back. Like we have like a back room, and I feel like I'll be so far away, but we'll try to, because I need absolute silence, which is why I usually actually wake up really early in the morning. I tend to wake when I was commuting into work. I live right outside of New York City, but I work in Manhattan. I work in Manhattan and in Brooklyn, and so when I had to commute, I usually got up at 5 in the morning, wrote for an hour and a half, and then went to work. But now that I'm not commuting, I usually am getting up like 6:30, writing for a couple hours, trying to get most of my words in when it's like still quiet in the house, because I need absolute silence. I do use music for inspiration, though. I have a playlist for like almost every book that I write, and I have a playlist for finding joy, but I don't listen to it while I'm writing. I listen to it at other times.
Oh, okay. So when you're working out details of the plot or the characters or whatever, you'll listen to music and.
Yeah, if I'm walking around, like if I'm out for a walk or something, I'll listen to it and like kind of like get the feel for the book.
Yeah.
But when I'm writing, it's like complete silence.
No, I'm that way too, because what I'll start to do, and I don't mean to, I'll start typing the words in the
So
song.
you're listening to?
Yeah, and it's like that's not what I meant, but that's what comes out, and so I just get too distracted or something.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like I'm not communing with the muse as
Right.
well.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I can't get like and if you're like, all authors know this, like there's that moment where like the characters are just like in your head, things are happening, and you're like writing it all down or typing it all down, and then if I have music, that really disrupts that like flow, so I have to just like have silence.
That happens to me too. I start like singing along, and then I can't like do my own words because I'm listening to what's happening in the song. And you know, I've told the other girls this, Adriana. So my thing that I listen to is I like instrumental music, but if I listen to like classical or something slow, then my fingers like type really slow to me. Music. So I listen to bluegrass instrumental. I have like banjos picking in the background, and I will repeat, like my fingers will type faster to keep up with this ding ling 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 ling.
I actually listen to like I don't even really listen to country music, but music that works really well for me when I'm trying to do like writing stuff that's not writing is like, I would say bluegrass. Like there's a band called Darling Side. And Darling Side, it's like it's 4 guys, and they play like a cello, a banjo, and they kind of harmonize. It's amazing. Like they have one album called Birds Say. It's a recommendation if you want to listen to like amazing music. And
writing it down.
It's very.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yes, listen to Darling Side. They're amazing. And if they come to your town when we can go outside again, definitely go see them live because they're great. So Darling Side, I listen to them all the time when I'm doing like other writing stuff because they harmonize and have the strings music, and it's just really soothing. Or like I'll listen to like Patty Griffin is another one of my favorite singers, or Emmylou Harris, like some kind of guitar soothing voice is really good for me when I'm not writing, but doing writing things, like creative things.
Yeah, I listen to music all the time when I'm writing. Actually, you know what? You and Sabrina turned me on to Gaslighter, and I've been like obsessing over that. I can't even read the word Gaslighter without hearing the first notes of that song.
I truly love that album. I actually did a live last Friday with Sarah McLean, because she's a good friend of mine, and we have been obsessively talking about Gaslighter on text. And I was like, let's just talk about a night you live and drink wine. So we did that last week, and it was really fun because it's it's a powerful album, and it's just full of all the things that I care a lot about in terms of, like, I don't know, treatment of women and
and that's a lot about what I'm writing about right now.
Yeah, survival and female friendships, so many things that are, I don't know, important to me. So if you haven't listened to Gaslighter by the Chicks, the former Dixie Chicks, you should definitely listen to that album because it's fantastic.
So you've had some big news. Is it this week? You probably knew before this, obviously, but you had, is it a 3-book deal for historical Las Fionas?
Yes, I am writing. It's for HQN. It's an imprint of Harlequin. And it's with my same editor because thankfully she likes me and I like her. And it's a 3-book series set in Paris in 1889 in the Paris World's Fair. And it's 3 Latinx heiresses that they're like best friends from finishing school, as one is. And as one does, when one is best friends from finishing school, you go to Paris for the World's Fair. So it's 3 different heiresses. One's Dominican, one's from Venezuela, one's from Mexico. And the first one is a rum heiress who falls for an earl who's a whiskey distiller. So it's like a rivals to lovers.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. When is this going to be out?
Not for a while.
Okay, because I'm like pre-order.
I think the plan is spring of 2022. So it'll be a while. Traditional publishing is like
very
so long.
So is that what you're working on now? The first one of those 3, or no?
No, I am working on a category. So I'm also writing 2 category romances for Desire, which is another imprint of Harlequin. I think my goal is now to write a book for every single
You're getting there.
So I'm writing 2 category romances. The first one's coming out June of next year, and it's all set. The series is called Zambrano Studios, and it's all set in. It's basically a Dominican family that owns like a telenovela empire. So it's
what? I love it.
Yeah, it's very soapish. I'm like, my childhood prepared me for this moment. Like, I literally have been waiting all my life to write this book. So it's very over the top and soapy. And it's so it's a Dominican family that owns a TV studio. So the first one is the illegitimate daughter of the studio owner becomes the CEO, and the hero is the other guy, the guy that wants the job. So
cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is what I'm actually trying to write right now. And then the second one in that series is going to come out early in 2022.
Wow.
That is so exciting. I can't wait for that. But you have so many different ideas. Where do they all come from? I know this is a typical question, but I'm serious.
I don't know. Some of them, I have a historical novella coming out in an anthology in November.
Wow.
And it was it's with Sierra Simone and Joanna Shroop and Eva Lee and Nicola Davidson. And that one, it was literally Joanna was like, do you want to be in this anthology? The title's going to be DILF, Duke I'd Like to F. And I'm like, fuck me up.
That is the best title ever.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's the DILF anthology. And I'm like, look, I'll come up with a Duke. Just And so that one's coming out in November. And it's, it's set mostly in Paris. I thought it might be fun just to kind of play with that setting since I'm writing this series there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's herbalist. It's a Dominican British heroine whose father was a diplomat in the Caribbean, and it's set in 1879. So she lives in London. She's an herbalist, and she's herbalist shop that's famous for their vigor tinctures, although he doesn't need the vigor tincture.
Of course not. Yeah.
He's there for a completely different reason. So they kind of go to Paris for like reasons that you'll find out when you read the novella. So that one was really fun to write, and it's coming out in November.
Cool. So how many books do you have out right now?
I have 6 full-length novels, and by the end of this year, I'll have 3 novellas. I also have a Christmas novella. It's in the Dreamers universe that's coming out later in the year too. But I have one novella that I wrote in December. It's a lesbian romance called Mangoes and Mistletoe, and it's like 2 Dominican bakers in Scotland and like a baking competition. So think like Great British Baking Show, but like the holiday version.
Yeah.
With 2 Dominican bakers. Yeah, it's really cute. It's sexy. It's fun. And then I have an MM that I wrote in anthology with some friends. Olivia Dade, Ruby Lang, Kat Sebastian, and Emma Berry, and that one is called He's Come Undone. So it's like starchy heroes, and I wrote an MM, which is like a best friends to lovers one, and that one came out in May.
Wow, that's cool.
Oh, that's a best friends to lovers. That sounds fantastic.
Have you
lovers?
Have you like in any of your books? Have you like struggled and like this is my hell book, and I don't think I can do this, like, but you got it done? Like any of your books, like just that really tough one?
Yes. American Love Story was, it's the 3rd book in the Dreamer series, and it's one of the heroes is a gay romance. So one of the heroes is a Haitian professor. He's a Haitian economics professor, to have a lot of background information. And
what you know.
Right. He just moved to Ithaca because he got a job in Cornell University, and the other hero is a prosecutor. He's white, and they had kind of an affair the year before, and as they start kind of like reconnecting again, then there begins to be like racially motivated police stops in the town, and so it essentially becomes like the conflict is like, this is happening in the town, and like having like political courage to do the right thing, and like the stress it puts in the relationships. I call it like a Black Lives Matter romance, but mostly it's like, I definitely do not solve racism in that book, but I talk about it.
That would have been helpful. That's
yes, if only. I talk about the toll that activism takes on what the I try to say what the like the realities of like Black men's lives are, and the fears and all that. And
yeah, that's what I love about your writing. I love that we get to see that the characters have their romance, they have their story, they have their families, and then woven in this is this constant threat and stress from this, being the other in society. And it's very impactful, and I think it really, takes the reader into a mindset that they might not be familiar with.
Yeah, and like I said, it really, like, just thinking about Elias, like, like the whole country, there's like no place he can go that he's accepted. Like, it really made me, like, I'm not kidding, I stopped reading and just sat and thought, and I think that's cool that, like, you really made me stop and think about what is that like, and
I'm glad, because I usually do that intentionally. So I'm really happy to hear when it works. But I mean, I think for me, what I try to do, and like my tagline is like, I write romance full of people who look and sound like my people getting unapologetic happy endings. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that like I can talk about these things. Like I can talk about a man who's a Black man who's trying to live his life and still has to walk with this reality, but also like is in love or falling in love and wants to be happy and wants this guy that he met that's perfect for him to like step up and like kind of like understand the struggle that he lives with and like be the person he deserves. And so I think it's the idea that we have to navigate all these realities, but we also have joy and fun and amazing sex, great food and beautiful things in our lives. Because I feel like sometimes like what we see of people of color or people on the margins is like so much like strife and struggle and so much brokenness. And I want to also like I don't want to use that as the
That's
only
not the sum total of your character. Yeah.
Right.
right. And so that book was hard. Like I had to rewrite that book like twice because it was a struggle. Like I didn't want the white hero to be a dummy, you know, like I didn't want him to be like, oh, what's racism? But I also didn't want him to be a white savior. Like I wanted it to be nuanced where like they really could like come together and like both give in a little bit. And I didn't want Patrice, the black hero, to be a martyr. Like it was like a very kind of like nuance. Like I was really kind of like trying to do something like my editor, and I was like, this book is gonna kill me. That's the only one that I really struggled with, but I'm really proud of it. I think it turned out well, and I'm really glad it's out there.
Well, and I think sometimes as an author, it's because I mean I've had my books I've struggled with, and it's always shocking to me when people really end up liking the one you struggled with because it was so hard, you know, and it just, I don't know, I think it just feels much better when somebody says a reader really enjoys it, and because the struggle we put into it.
Yeah,
I think that's a little bit different. Hey, R.L. Merrill asked, how many books had you written before you got your first publication deal?
none.
Oh, you go, girl. That's awesome.
Before I got I had written like 1.5.
Okay.
I had like Dreamer, and then I had like half of the second book in the Dreamer series I had written, and then like.
But you sold those, right? You sold what you wrote. You don't have
the series.
You don't have anything hiding under the bed anywhere. You go. That is awesome.
That is fantastic.
I was lucky. I feel like I was saying this to someone today. I was very lucky that I hadn't like written like 10 books before. Like I literally was able to like get an agent with my first manuscript, and then I was able to sell it. So
but you've written 10 books since. So
yes, and I'm very tired.
Made up for it. Yeah.
Very tired. Yes. Yeah.
Well, Adriana, thank you so much for
Thank you.
writing this wonderful book that we just really enjoyed, and for coming out and visiting with us. I would say, so we're getting down to it, but would you just give us one more last little shout out about your new book and your new project that you're working on, and know that we're just so thankful that you came and spent time with us tonight.
Yes, and we had some questions left over on the side. Yes, I tried some rum.
Oh.
And yes, I was going to school when I started writing. I was doing a master's of social work.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So this is Here to Stay.
Oh, lovely cover.
Yes, it's out now. It's out on ebook, and then it's exclusively at Walmart for the first 3 months if you want the paperback. And so if you want the paperback, you have to go there. And some people had been posting today that they went and got it. So if you're on a Walmart, look for it. It's only there for the first 3 months, and it's a fun, like funny contemporary romance about New Yorkers in Dallas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you so very much. It was awesome to see you here.
Yes. Thanks for coming. All righty. So
we have our questions and our.
Yes, we'll go to the questions first.
Okay.
Okay. So
Before our prop?
I have the prop, but we don't use the prop yet.
Okay.
Okay. So we every month when we do our live streams with our authors, we always have the four of us ask you all questions, and you have to guess which one of us is this themed thing. Okay. So which author would like to go back in time and visit with the people that are no longer around and be with her kids when they were little? And which author would like to have the ability to make things bigger and smaller? It would help in carrying in groceries. Which author would like to stop time anytime she wished? And which author wishes she could teleport to any location and take anyone with her because flying is no fun and sitting in a car for hours is torture? Now, I'll be posting these questions in the Isn't It Romantic Book Club. So if you want to answer any of these, just join the Isn't It Romantic Book Club group on Facebook. If you're from Jenny's group or my group, just join there and you can answer these questions. Now we're going to introduce our next book.
There's a theme about all of those questions.
Supernatural.
Those questions all had a theme.
Yeah, they were all supernatural or psychic abilities.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the question was kind of like, if we had a superpower, which superpower would we want?
Right.
So are we ready for our
We're ready.
We're ready.
All right, here we go.
Oh my God. They're
And
so cute.
These are not devil horns, they're lightning. So our next book is Flash of Fear by Asa Maria Bradley.
Flash of Fear, Asa Maria Bradley. Woo! We're so excited.
I know, and I got to tell you all, I started reading this one when it came out, and it was really, really good. You all are going to love it. It's paranormal. It's wonderful. It's right up my alley. It's stuff I love. I think we're all going to have a really good time reading.
We'll see you next month.
Yeah. And it's a story about, isn't it a story about a girl that gets hit by lightning and gets
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, we have a theme here.
So that's why Jenny's all about
She is going to make sure that you all know we have a theme.
Yeah, we have a theme, our superpower theme. So
okay, so thank you guys for joining us, and thanks again for Adriana Herrera for showing up and letting us read your wonderful book and telling us all your good news. And anybody have anything else to say about anything?
I'm good.
So,
Okay.
Can't wait to see you
happy
next
Friday.
time.
Thank goodness it's
Have a
Friday.
great weekend.
Yes, right.